So thanks everyone for joining us today. Massachusetts Farm to School is really excited to have you all today here to talk about USDA summer meals and farmers markets and how we can really strengthen the connection between great summer meals across the state and farmers markets and happening in communities all across Massachusetts. And we have a great lineup of panelists here today to share their knowledge and experiences in the past summers, pandemic and before, to really help you navigate exploring the options in your community, making those connections, what it can look like, what are the challenges, what are the benefits, and really diving into the details. So we have 4 speakers lined up. And then I think we'll have a good amount of time at the end for question and answer and some conversation, really casual here today, sharing of lessons and maybe also there's a lot of market managers on today's Zoom. So if you also have experience with this, we'd be happy to dive into that at the end. I just encourage you to share your contact information or your name and your affiliation in the chat. To introduce yourself. I think there's a little bit too many people to go around to do that, but feel free to say hi in the chat, and that way people can connect offline if you want to. And like I said, we are recording this, so we'll make the recording available to folks after this who aren't able to join us. But my name is Lisa Damon. I'm a co-director of Massachusetts Farm to School, and we help connect farms, local food and schools across the state. So really encouraging local food in cafeterias and then local food education in classrooms throughout Massachusetts. We're excited to, always excited to partner with Project Bread and their team. Natasha is here to give a little bit of overview of summer meals and their expertise on that subject. And then we'll hear from 3 markets that have a great amount of experience working with summer meals in their community. So we'll first hear from Jamie from Rising Roots in Pittsfield, then John at the Brockton Farmers Market, and then Vicki from Mattapan Food and Fitness, the Mattapan Farmers Market. And I think what we'll probably do is do some questions after Natasha's, just maybe some clarifying questions. If there's some logistics, programmatic summer meals questions, I think we can do get into a little bit after Natasha. And then Jamie will be our first market to speak, and Jamie unfortunately cannot stay on for the whole time. So we'll do some Q&A for Jamie right after, so she's able to jump off after her presentation. And then if you have questions that come up throughout the session, just put them in the chat and we'll try to monitor those and bring them back up, or just save them for the end and we can ask any of the panelists at that point. Sound good? Great. So I'm going to pass it over to Natasha, and she's going to give us a great backgrounder and detailed presentation on summer meals. And I think I made you co-host, Natasha, so you're able to share your screen.
Perfect. Let me try doing that now. Is that showing up for folks? Okay, perfect. All right, well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining this webinar today. My name is Natasha Smith. I'm the Director of Child Nutrition at Project Bread, and we work statewide. As many of you probably know, Project Bread works statewide on a variety of anti-hunger issues. My child nutrition team at Project Bread works statewide, particularly on school breakfast and summer meals. And so today we're going to talk about summer eats. The summer season, of course, is fast approaching, and we're really glad to have this opportunity today to connect with some of you at the farmers markets. Farmers markets can be really amazing partners in summer eats and make for amazing summer eats sites. And so I'm excited to share more about that and hear and answer any questions that you may have. Let me just give a quick overview of summer eats. So more than 450,000 students in Massachusetts are eligible, and probably more, that number is higher now due to the pandemic, eligible for free and reduced price school meals. And when school is out for summer, you can see how families who rely on these meals scramble to find the food that they need and to fill that gap that school meals provides during the school year. And so the purpose of Summer Eats is, which is our Massachusetts brand, I should say, our Massachusetts brand for the USDA Summer Food Service Program, which is a federal summer meals program operating across the country. And the purpose of this program is really to fill this gap and to alleviate hunger throughout the summer when school meals are not available. And my team, the Child Nutrition Outreach Program at Project Bread, has been working for more than 2 decades to increase participation and improve this program. We work hand in hand with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, who administers the program on the state level. And we provide, I'll speak more about what we provide, but we offer much technical assistance to sites and sponsors of the Summer Eats programs, as well as free materials and many different types of resources to help you build your program and increase participation in the program. Oh, I didn't realize that this slide did that, but so just a little bit more background on the program itself. So as I said, it's a federal program. So the USDA administers this program at the federal level. They do so through a state agency in each state. So in our state, the Department of Ed is the state agency that administers this program, the same agency that administers school meals programs. And then how it works on the city level is that there'll be a sponsor, such as it could be, oftentimes it is a school district or a organization such as a YMCA or a Boys and Girls Club or some other community-based organization sponsors the program, meaning that they work with DESE, the Department of Ed, and they do a lot of paperwork with DESE. They receive reimbursement for every meal that they serve. They often are the ones actually preparing the meals, although sometimes they purchase the meals from a vendor. And then they are sort of in charge of administering the program at one or more sites in their community. So oftentimes a sponsor will be in charge of many different sites throughout their community. Sometimes a sponsor will be small enough to only have 1 or 2 sites, but oftentimes it's, for example, a school district, and the school district might have 10 or 20 sites throughout their community in the summer, and they could be happening at school locations, park locations, various different locations, sometimes including farmers markets, which of course is the topic for today. And my team, the Child Nutrition Outreach Program at Project Bread, sort of works to help each of these steps. In particular, we work with sponsors to help them improve and increase participation in their programs. And we also work directly with sites as needed to help sites have successful Summer Eats programs. I just wanted to give you a little bit of scope for the size of this program across the state. So I have numbers here for both 2019 and 2020. You can see with COVID last year, and I'll explain a little bit more for the drastic increases in the program last summer, but the program grew enormously last year and served over 4 million meals throughout the course of the summer in nearing 200 communities. So it's a large program. It's recognized statewide, our Summer Eats brand, and it's certainly something that could be a benefit for you to tap into this existing program that and to offer an additional site within your community. So when we talk about farmers market sites, they really fall under the label, I guess, of non-traditional sites. We're working every year to build the number of non-traditional sites in the state. And what we really mean by non-traditional is a traditional site being a summer program at a school, a summer school site, some other school-based program, or perhaps a park-based program. Some of these really more traditional ways of serving the summer program. We try and push that boundary and look beyond that to think about sites that are really located where children are, where they live, where they play, where they are accessing frequently, what places that are convenient and easy for families to access. And so these are the types of sites that we consider to be non-traditional. Libraries, mobile meal programs, housing markets, farmers markets, of course, falls into this category. And really anything else that might be sort of an outside the box type of site for this program, but really makes sense in the context of trying to bring these meals to children where they live and play. And so as far as meals at the market, we think it's a really good fit. We definitely have a handful, and you'll hear from some of them today, a handful of farmers markets that are already doing summer eats at their market, and they can certainly speak more to their individual examples. But we do feel that that by providing meals at the market and providing nutritionally balanced meals to children during the summertime, farmers markets can increase their own foot traffic and visibility. Sorry if you can hear that beeping in the background, while also fulfilling their mission to reduce food insecurity, promote healthy food access, and connect children to the sources of their food. So we think there's strong mission alignment between the two programs. And really what we're talking about today is markets that may be interested in becoming a site under the Summer Eats program. And if you were to do that, you would essentially, a site functions as the physical location where the meals are served. So the sponsor usually produces the meals, does a lot of paperwork with DESI to be set up to receive reimbursement for the meals, but then would deliver meals to the site and help the site sort of be oversight for the site, help them through any paperwork they needed to do on the state level, make sure they were following food safety guidelines and those sorts of things. But so the sponsor would be dealing with all of the money, essentially, receiving the reimbursements for the meals served. And the sites usually, although not always, will provide staff to distribute the meals and count the meals that they serve. And that's really their main function and main responsibility. Of course, in addition to interacting with families, promoting the program, and doing outreach for their program in general. I mentioned earlier that due to COVID-19, there's a variety of flexibilities that are in place that were in place last summer, which really caused the giant increase in the program from 2019 to 2020. Basically, the USDA, and this is true for school meals this year as well, has allowed a variety of different flexibilities and waived requirements so that meals are more accessible. So before 2020, before the pandemic, you had to, children coming to eat at a site, they would have to eat on site. They would only be able to eat the meal at that meal time. So if they came to the farmer's market at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, they would be eating a lunch meal on site. Well, 2020, due to the public health emergency and distancing requirements and all of that, those requirements were drastically changed, and sites have been allowed to serve grab and go meals. They've been allowed to serve multiple types of meals at once and multiple days of meals at once. So we have sites serving, 7 days of meals at once, which is never something that has been allowed prior to the pandemic. And these flexibilities I mentioned because they're still in place for this coming summer. So it's actually easier than ever right now to provide meals and to provide a decent quantity of meals at once, and then it has been before. So I actually think it's a great year to kind of like dip your toes in the water of summer eats and see how it works for you at the market, because you don't have to make sure you're keeping those kids on site. You don't have to provide necessarily space for them to eat there and programming for them to do, although if you are interested in doing that and you have the distancing capabilities to do so, we're certainly happy to work with you on that. but there are a number of flexibilities in place that make this a great year to try it out. And just some of the things that we see as being really as facilitating success, especially in the farmers market context, are, just making sure that if you're going to be a program, you are advertising the fact that you are a program. We have lots of different signage and materials that you can use that we can provide to you for free. Making sure, again, I mentioned this, making sure that you do have dedicated staff or volunteers and interns. Teens can work quite well doing this, but that are sort of in charge of the meal distribution aspect and counting the meals, because that is something that you will have to do as a requirement for being a site with this program. And also, I mentioned this, but engaging with interns and volunteers. I'm sure Vicky, our friend Vicky from Mattapan Food and Fitness, might talk about this a bit more, but the importance of engaging young people in this, especially since it's a program for youth, can't be overestimated. And we certainly encourage folks to tap into that in their communities, especially, with summer, with school being out. It's a great time to try and have young people in your community promote this program and perhaps work at your program and advertise it to their peers as well. And just a few ways that we can help you if you are interested in pursuing summer eats at your market. What we do in general, there's a lot of information on this slide. This is sort of what my team does in general on summer eats to help folks. We work to recruit new sponsors and sites, and we provide a lot of various types of technical assistance. We have grant programs that we offer, and as I mentioned, materials and signage in many different languages, and sharing of best practices and help with how folks can increase participation at their programs. We also have a meal finder map up at our website at mealsforkids.org that has all of the sites statewide. And this is a map that we continuously update. And so if you were to become a site, then your location would be listed on this map as well. And it's sort of a promotion. Sorry, my dog here is saying hi. It is a promotion that is available for all sites. So basically the map exists as a resource where if a family is wondering what summer eats sites are available to them in their community, they can go to the map, they can look up via zip code or via their address and find where are the meals sites nearby that are close to me. So that's another resource that we have and we're continually updating. And so if you are interested in this, we are more than happy to kind of walk you through it more specific to your situation. What we would do is, help you learn more about the program and see if it's a good fit, if that's a conversation you'd be interested in having with us. If you were interested in moving forward with the program, kind of our next step would be looking at your community and seeing the sponsors that operate there. Oftentimes there are several or at least a couple sponsors operating in your general region. And so we could see if they were interested and willing in to add your site, and we could help facilitate that connection between you and the sponsor. And then if it were all to work out and you were to become a new site in the Summer Eats program, we would be more than happy to help you promote your new site, offer you free resources and signage and those types of things to make sure you can advertise your location and any other assistance that you might need. So I know that was a lot of information, but I want to try and get through it quickly to make room for any questions that folks might have. So I'm happy to open it up for a few questions right now.
Thanks, Natasha.
Sure.
I just saw a question come in the chat about weekends. Are the meals served on weekends? Thinking of farmers markets that are on Saturdays and Sundays. Are all markets able to take part, or is there criteria based on free or reduced school meal participation? This is from David at MDAR.
Great questions. So right now, again, this is another flexibility due to COVID. Sites can be located anywhere in the state. Typically, pre-pandemic, you did have to be in a community that was 50% or greater for your reduced price qualifying. But right now, that requirement is not in place, and sites can be located anywhere and serve free meals to all children, no questions asked, which is what the Summer Eats program does. And so that's that part of the question. What was the first part of the question, Lisa?
Are meals served on weekends too? Thinking of markets that happen on Saturdays and Sundays, which is a common.
Yeah. Yes, meals can be served on weekends. And so if you had a Saturday market, you could certainly serve meals on Saturdays, and you could potentially even offer right now, again, a flexibility due to COVID, you could potentially serve multiple meals at once. So whether that might be, it really depends on the local situation, but whether it's a bag of meals to take the child through that day, or whether it's actually several days worth of meals, that would probably be a conversation that you would have with your sponsor once we were to determine who that sponsor would be, of whether they would be, how many days worth of meals would be right for you to serve. But right now, yeah, weekend meals for sure, and possibly multiple days worth.
Great. If anyone has a question, feel free to pop it in the chat for Natasha, or just speak up. I just had a question, one that came in. Just to clarify, I'd need to find a sponsor in my region to fund the meals. And I kind of had a question about that too, Natasha. Like, if they don't already know who the sponsor is in their community, or maybe there isn't one right in their community, what's the first step of trying to make that connection?
Yeah, so I would suggest reaching out to us as step number one, because we know all the sponsors in the state and we know them pretty well. So we would be able to, look at the town or the city that you're in, figure out if there's a sponsor there. If there is, and we know that they would be a good fit for you, then we could reach out to that sponsor, see if they'd be willing to pick up a new site and facilitate the connection between both of you. If there wasn't a sponsor directly in your city, we would still be happy to look and see what was the closest option nearby, because that doesn't mean there isn't a sponsor in the neighboring city, or that already covers your general region that would be happy to pick up your site. So certainly no guarantees that we can find a sponsor willing to cover you, but I would say it's likely that we'll be able to find someone just because of the number of folks that will be sponsoring this program, and oftentimes they're happy to pick up a new site, especially I'll say if the site is providing the staffing and it's just a matter of them dropping meals to you.
And then Simca from Mass Farm to School just wanted to clarify sponsor refers to the entity providing the meals. The summer meal program operates with federal funding.
Correct. Yep. So the sponsor is the entity that works with DESI that receives the reimbursement for the meals and either produces the meals themselves and distributes them to the sites, or works with a vendor to purchase the meals from the vendor and distribute to the sites. But yes, usually a sponsor is sort of, the go-between between the program at large and the individual sites on the ground.
Great. And Natasha, after you close out, just make sure to share your contact information in the chat again too, if there's a more appropriate website to send people to as a launching point for getting in contact with you and following up with that information. And we'll try to also share that out again post-meeting, so folks have access to Project Bread's vast resources and all of their great information.
Sure.
So I guess we'll stop there with questions, but also, like I said, we can talk about this one. Alex just asked, along with staffing, do sites have to supply a table/tent? And Natasha, feel free to answer that. And I think that's a great question also for John, Jamie, and Vicki too, of people may have different experiences, but Natasha, feel free
Yeah,
If you have
I would say it depends. There will be sponsors that are happy to supply sites with those sorts of items, depending on the size of their program and if they have capacity. They may or may not have enough tents for all of their sites, but they may. But I would say, yeah, it sort of depends on a local basis. I would be surprised if they wouldn't be able to supply at least things like tables.
Mm-hmm. And then Estelle from Beverly wants to know, would a 3 p.m. market work timing wise for a site?
Yeah, I mean, really any time is fair game as far as this program goes. There's no requirements for that. I would think about whether you feel like you have children coming to the market, or again, one of the flexibilities due to COVID is that parents can actually pick up meals for their children and the children don't have to be on site. So if you feel like you have a bunch of many parents coming to your market that would be interested in these free meals, or children themselves coming to the market, then it could very well be a good fit. But there aren't any requirements as far as it having to be, at a 12 p.m. typical lunchtime or anything like that.
Great. Great. Okay, thanks, Natasha. And again, Natasha will put her contact information into the chat and we'll try to share that out afterwards so you can follow up with her. So I'm going to pass it over to Jamie from Pittsfield. She's going to talk a little bit about their market and their experience with summer meals. And I think, Jamie, you're ready to go with sharing your screen.
Okay, I've never done this before, so let me make sure this is going to work. And then, it's working. Oh, okay, sorry, just 1 second. Oh. I think it's making me, it's not letting me, no one can see my screen, huh? Let me just try one more time. Did that work?
There you go.
Okay, phew, my blood pressure went up. Okay, we're good. Okay, so hi, I'm Jamie Samowitz. I'm a co-founder and co-director of Roots Rising. And I do have a new baby at home. This is why I can't stay on the call. So if you hear him in the background, I apologize about that. So our mission is to empower youth and build community through food and farming. And our vision is to lift up teens as community change makers and to strengthen the local food system through the transformational power of meaningful work. So Roots Rising has 2 main initiatives. We have our Pittsfield Farmers Market, which I'll be focusing on here. And we also have our youth crews where we hire teens to work on farms, in food pantries, and also at our own market. And you will be hearing a bit about Market Crew and their involvement with Summer Eats. So our Pittsfield Farmers Market, launched in 2013, is the first teen-run market in the region. It's run by our advanced level Market Crew. Those are Market Crew members in the photo, who are graduates of our farm crews. So a Roots Rising youth crew is more than just a job. It's an opportunity to engage in meaningful work, work that needs to be done and that serves a larger social good. And we believe that meaningful work leaves youth feeling purposeful, capable, and connected. And our farmers market is the perfect place to engage in such meaningful work. Market Crew is involved with every aspect of our market, from financial oversight, that's what you're seeing here, to setup and breakdown, to vendor support, customer service, and they also implement the market's food justice programs, including Summer Eats. So just a bit more about our market before I delve into Summer Eats. We were the first year-round market in Berkshire County, and we were founded with the belief that everyone should have access to fresh, healthy food. We are located alongside Pittsfield's most low-income neighborhood, and we have several food justice initiatives to make our market affordable for all. That includes Market Match, where we double the purchasing power of low-income shoppers by matching SNAP, WIC, and senior benefits. And we also have a giving table, there it is, where shoppers and vendors donate goods for local food pantries and homeless shelters. And we actually did integrate that with our Summer Eats program, which I'll talk about. And then, of course, we have Summer Eats. So all these photos, these are in the before times of 2019. Our market went virtual in 2020, and we are back in person in 2021, and we'll be running Summer Eats again. So we originally got involved by reaching out to Project Bread. We were just in the process of launching our market crew and transforming into a teen-run farmers market. And we felt that this would be the perfect time to take on a new project and have our teens deeply engage with our food justice work. And with our focus on making healthy food accessible and having our market be welcoming to all, we just felt that Summer Eats was a good match for our market. So Project Bread connected us to Silvana Bryan, the school nutrition director of the Pittsfield public school system. So this was in the winter before our 2019 season. They both came out to our site, they met with us, and we discussed what the process would look like. As a farmer's market, we felt strongly that the meals should be as healthy as possible. So we worked with Silvana to make a menu that we would feel good about, such as grilled chicken instead of fried chicken. We also had wraps, salads, fruit, milk, sandwiches. We were also partnering with Zion Lutheran Church, which is located alongside our market. So they were already a partner of our market. We have our indoor market there, and they're always interested in increasing food access in the community. They also had a certified kitchen and an extensive refrigeration system, which we did not have. So they were the perfect last piece of the puzzle in terms of how to pull this off. And that's the church there, and this is the common where we hold our market. So how it would work is that Silvana and her team in nutrition services would prepare the food on Fridays, transport the food in coolers that they provided, so we didn't have to purchase any coolers. Volunteers that were coordinated by Zion would receive the food on Fridays and put it into their refrigerators. And on Saturdays, when our market ran, our market crew and Zion volunteers would get the food out of the fridges and set it up at our Summer Eats booth. We also had picnic blankets set up. So this was pre-pandemic, so it was required that meals were eaten on site. And we didn't have a lot of picnic tables, so we provided these blankets around the booth, and it was a popular option with families. This year, it's going to be grab and go, because as we heard, it's no longer a requirement to consume on site. We're also not allowing folks to eat at the market. So as for any leftovers, Silvana agreed that because they're not open over the weekends, we couldn't return the food to them. Any food that wasn't distributed could be given to our giving table and then distributed to local food pantries and homeless shelters. So that's what happened on Saturday. And then on Mondays, Zion volunteers would meet Pittsfield public school staff and the coolers would be picked up. And then that's how we got through the week. As for paperwork, we had to take the temperature of the food when we were pulling it out of the fridge. Otherwise, we just had a really simple sheet that Silvana gave us that accounted for how many meals were distributed and how many meals were sold. So we were also able to sell meals to adults for $3. And it was really important that we got an accurate count. That was one of the jobs that the teens had. And all that paperwork and any cash went back with the coolers on Monday. Silvana handled all the paperwork for the USDA. We didn't have to do any of that. I have to say overall, this program was really doable for us. As I mentioned, I'm a co-director, so there's two of us in charge, and my fellow co-director is usually the one who gets really excited about new initiatives, and I'm usually the one who's a bit more cautious about taking on too much, since we only have 2 full-time staff members. So I was initially hesitant about taking on Summer Eats, but it turned out that it was really easy to run. It had a real minimal administrative load, and it was really worthwhile in terms of the impact that it generated. In terms of marketing, we did a push with our e-newsletter, our social media. We sent a flyer to community organizations who work with food insecure families, so WIC, local food pantries. The school sent out a flyer of all Summer Eats sites to every family in the district, and they put up a billboard listing all the Summer Eats sites. And we also had our market crew make chalk drawings. Actually, that was their idea, to make chalk drawings leading to our Summer Eats booth to help draw kids in. So the benefits of being involved with Summer Eats, it definitely moved our mission forward of making healthy food accessible for all. In 2019, we were the only Summer Eats site that took place over the weekend in the entire county. So we were really an essential part of summer food security for many families. We ended up handing out about 350 meals in about 9 weeks. There's still a stigma that farmers markets are elite spaces. We know they can be intimidating to enter. So we just love creating activities, events, reasons to draw people in and ensure they feel welcome. And Summer Eats with the picnic blankets and the chalk drawings and the festivities of it, it really helped us do that, create a welcoming atmosphere. It also deepened our relationship with community partners such as Zion. We already had a good relationship with the public school system, but never with nutrition services. So it expanded our connection to the school system. We found it really easy to find volunteers to support the program. I was there myself many Saturdays. It's a feel-good volunteer position. You get to interact with a lot of happy kids and families, and it just wasn't a hard position to fill. Challenges, as I mentioned, we originally didn't have our own refrigeration unit, although we later wrote a grant to buy our own fridge. So that could have been a major limitation, but that's where our partnership with Zion came in. Plastic packaging was a challenge for us. Our market crew was just developing a new plastic policy that banned disposable plastic at the market. We were about to launch this policy in 2020 when the pandemic hit. So it remains to be seen how it will be handled this year, but by necessity, a lot of the food is coming in plastic packaging. A last challenge, I guess just when we got started, was trying to estimate how many meals we would need. As a brand new program, we just really weren't sure what the response would be. So what we did is that we made a guess, and Solana made those meals, and then she also sent along extra peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that we could give out in case we ran out, which did happen at first. And then she would look at our numbers each week and note that there was an uptick, and then she would also increase the amount of meals that we were receiving. Lessons learned. In the beginning, we just relied on our marketing campaign to bring in youth. And then when we felt like we wanted to increase our numbers, we did things like, our market crew had an idea of going to the playground that was adjacent to our market and just going up to families and spreading the word and telling them we were giving away free food. So that was extremely effective, bringing more people in. So just doing some more on the ground outreach while the program's running. So that's about it. We were really thankful to be able to offer this program in our community, and I'm happy to have shared our story here with you. So thank you, and I can take any questions.
Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, feel free to pop any questions into the chat for Jamie, or just unmute yourself and shout them out. I had one question that came up as folks are thinking about it. One of your signs had talked about free meals and then also adult meals for pay. And I'm just wondering how you handled any paid meals that were bought, cash, and just how that got transferred and the details of that.
We just had an envelope, and it was cash only. And so the adults could purchase a meal, and we would record it as a meal that was purchased, and then we would hand over the cash alongside the coolers when they were picked up for the week, and alongside all of our paperwork. And that was basically it.
And a question came in, how did you handle food allergies and special diets?
I believe we had a sign up, but I think what we said is that we couldn't guarantee that anything was made in a nut-free facility, or I believe we did have a small sign up about with an allergy warning.
Good question. I'm wondering, Jamie, have you made any connections or had any thoughts around making connections between the meals and vendors, or do you see any of that happening, or any plans to kind of foster those relationships going forward?
In terms of sourcing ingredients from our vendors? Yeah, I mean, we really weren't in charge of the making of the meals. That was really Silvana and Nutrition Services. I mean, I think that's a great idea to pose to her. I know she's probably under a lot of restrictions in terms of what she can do and cannot do. But it is a nice idea because, you know, our vendors were really separate from this program that we were running. So it'd be nice to integrate them.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else questions for Jamie? Those are great pictures, Jamie. You're, yeah, and just having the people power of youth at your market, I can imagine, is extremely valuable to just running it, but also, like you said, that the other aspects of getting folks engaged. Yeah, and the teens love running it. It's just the right scale of program for a group of teens to take on with adult supervision. And it was a really feel-good addition to our market. So I'm happy to say that I was wrong about being concerned. And it turned out to be a big positive for our summer. Yeah, great.
Amy, I have a quick question for you. So you mentioned that you started the process in the winter of 2019. And I feel like now is a great time to get this program started at more farmers markets in our communities. But it's May 4th, and a lot of us are opening in a month to 6 weeks. So what advice would you give, considering the timeline before the official summer market season starts, and you know, if you think it would be something in working from scratch?
My only advice is to reach out to Project Bread. I think they are the best resource to get you started, and that's what we did. And they really walked us through every part of it. Once we were connected to our sponsor, you know, they were really directing how it went and telling us what we needed to do, and things did fall into place fairly quickly for us. Okay. But you're right, we did begin the initial conversation over the winter.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Great. And Jamie, and could folks follow up with you after today, you or someone at your organization, if they have any questions? If you could pop that into the chat, because I know you have to jump off, but things may come up.
I just put it
out, so it's nice to. I said you have a lot figured out, so it'd be nice for folks to be able to pick your brain if they have specific questions afterwards.
Yeah, we're always happy to lend a hand, and I can be reached at info@rootsrising.org, and I just put that into the chat. And just thank you so much for accommodating my new mom schedule. And
no problem. Thanks for taking the time out of your day and your busy week. You're just returning to work, so we really threw you right into it. So I appreciate the time. Yeah, and all the great information.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Jamie.
Bye-bye.
Great. And so I think now we're going to pass it over to John from Brockton to share a little bit about your experience in summer eats and summer meals at the market.
Thanks, Lisa. Well, Brockton is a completely different story from Pittsfield. We are a very small market. Up until last year, I was the only volunteer staff at the market during the day. And was also managing the healthy incentive program for all of our vendors. We've run between 8 to 12 vendors per season, so very small. In April of 2017, Project Bread reached out and asked if I would be willing to participate in the program, and got me connected with the director of food service at Brockton Public Schools, and they're located at the high school. They have a very well-established program for other community sites, but most of those sites are 5 days a week, They have facilities and they have staff to manage the program. They have refrigeration and everything. We had none of that. But Chartwell's, which is the contractor for the food service, was very accommodating. They provided a staff member to manage the program for us. So I did not have to try to manage both running transactions for all the vendors and passing out meals. So that was a huge help. They took care of all of the paperwork. They dropped off coolers with the lunches in them. I provided a table and a tent, and they managed everything else. We started out small with about 15 to 20 lunches the first couple of days, first couple of weeks of the market, and then it jumped up. And last year we were doing 40 to 45 lunches every day, which for our market is a big deal. Sorry, not last year, in 2019, we were running about 250 to 300 customers through our market every week. Starting in 2018, the library partnered with us and started providing entertainment for kids. So parents would bring their kids to the market, they'd get a lunch, and then they would go listen to a storyteller or be entertained by a clown or whatever the entertainment was that the library provided that week. So we had kind of increased the capability of the market. The parents would come, drop their kids off at the Summer Eats tent, and they'd have an hour to shop without having to worry about their kids. So we got even more parents with children coming to the market that way. I guess because the food service was willing to provide the staff member, I think is the only way we were able to handle it. I'm hoping they'll be able to provide someone this year. I'm not sure yet. They have not had their spring training session for the summer sites. So I'm hoping that it'll work out again this year and that we'll be able to provide lunches for more kids. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, John. I had a question about timing. So if the staff person from the school was at your market, did they come for a subsection of your market or the whole time, and how did that work?
Oh, okay. Yeah, they would come for a subsection. They were there for an hour and a half. So it was concurrent with our library programming. They would show up at 10:30, and the library programming would start at noon, and then they would pack up at I'm sorry, the library programming started at 11 and they would pack up at noon. And so they would, they'd take the lunches back, the remaining lunches,
Mm-hmm.
and the cooler.
Do you, can you talk a little bit more about the connection with the library and just do you see that type of program happening? Are you hopeful that something like that is going to happen, or do you think that that's a little too much to on this year?
Last Monday, I was starting to write an email to the director of the library to ask about what he thought this year when one popped into my inbox. They have now already scheduled programmers for programming for the 7 weeks of our summer. before they go back to school. And they also would like to provide a larger presence at the market for the library, a pop-up library or some other type of programming in addition to the kids programming. So that, yeah, that partnership is expanding.
That's great. That's great. And maybe, John, feel free to put some questions in the chat for John or comments. And then I think after Vicky, maybe we can all have, just Q&A. And so if things pop up for John, you can answer any questions then. Does that sound okay, John?
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. So thank you, John, for sharing about Brockton. That's really a great success story, and wish you luck for your return this season.
Thank you.
So now I'm excited to introduce Vicky from Mattapan Food and Fitness and the Mattapan Market. And she's going to talk a little bit about her market and the experience over the last, she's our only panelist today that was serving meals this past year. So she has a unique perspective of following the model that will continue this coming summer. So we're excited to hear a little bit about how that worked and hear about your success stories and lessons learned. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Vicky.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vicky Siggers. I'm with the Mattapan Food and Fitness Coalition. I'm the market manager for the Mattapan Square Farmers Market. I'm also on a leadership team. We are going into our 15th season. We originally started Summer Eats at the Mattapan Library. We were very proud to say that we were a pilot for the Summer Eats program. So we started there. We served meals Monday through Friday, and then we were asked, would you want to do it at the farmers market? And I thought, oh my goodness, this is one more thing that we have to do. But we knew that it was necessary. And most of the children that we really that were coming, what we found over the summer were the children that weren't in some sort of summer program. Fortunately, the library is really a space where a lot of the kids were just coming to hang out. And they were there all day. And the librarian told me that they're there all day, and they'd go across the street and get a bag of chips or something like that. And then she also was buying lunch for them. So that was, I had no idea all of this was going on. So that's how we really started, decided that we were going to do the Summer Eats program at the library and at the farmers market. I have to say that the partnerships and the sponsors, the Mayor's Office of Food Access, Project Bread, YMCA, the library really lifted us up, and they helped, because I didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know how this was going to work, but they were there to support us. And we came up with a program that was called Books and Bites. So the kids would get a book. And of course, this was before COVID. And we would do story times, same sort of thing. In the library, we would partner with them about different activities that we would do. And then the kids would also come to the farmers market to pick up their lunches or meals on Saturday. Part of that piece also is something that we had, which is bike to farmers market. So the kids would bike to the market, and we had the Boston bike, what is it, Boston? No, Boston bike that would come to fix bikes. They came every other Saturday. They've been doing this for the last 4 years. So the kids would bring their bikes. And while they're waiting for their bikes to get fixed or might have a flat tire or some chain or something, then they would come and they would have their meal with us. Of course, now, it's a grab and go. In the past, would do little cooking classes with them. And what we would do it on Kids Day. We always had a huge event at the farmers market, and we would draw probably about 500 folks. The kids would get their backpacks and all these school supplies. We always talked to them about nutrition and eating healthy and about sugary drinks. So we always had sort of a component that was about education and about eating healthy and physical activity. So, of course, now here we are in a pandemic, and of course, it's a grab and go. But what I decided to do, because what we found was that when school closed, a lot of these families did not have school supplies. They didn't have crayons, they didn't have scissors, they didn't have, the things that they needed to continue to be on Zoom and do their activities. So we started putting school supplies in the lunches for them, and books and crayons and those kinds of things. So it, that was, and that's exactly what we'll be doing again this year. One of the things that really helped is that, they're coming, and a lot of times the families are really just coming to get the meals, but while they're there, they get to their shopping. What we did last year also is that we had little coupons for $2.50 that the kids got. It looked like bookmarks, and it would be in their book, and they would get a shopping bag, and they got to shop at the market. This was just a grant that we had gotten, and so they really enjoyed doing that. And we'll be doing that again this year. As far as like connections, of course, we have our churches, our family services, ABCD, Head Start, another organization, which is Immigrants for Family Services, which we will be partnering with this year. They just came into Mattapan, and so we are looking forward to working with them also. I think that's pretty much it. We really just try to really just look at what their needs are. And yes, it is the meal, but we also wanted to make sure that we were adding some other value to this bag that they're getting with food. Always, again, putting, WIC would donate placemats, with information on it about, eating healthy. So they'd get something like that. So yeah, we just try to come up with really creative ideas to keep them so they continue to come and they get their meals. But again, also because of our mission about eating healthy and staying fit. So that really has resonated in what they do. They're and having the same kids come is really a joy. You get to know them, and you get to know what they like. One of the other things that we did was we had a big chart, and we had a happy face and a frown face, and they would put a sticker on whether they liked the meal or not. We did that at the library, and we did do it at the farmers market last year. I'm like, okay, so when you come back next week, I want to know how what'd you think about that, that wrap? And they would let us know. And these are the things that we would go back to Project Bread and the YMCA and say, no, they don't want that. And even with the milk, they didn't want 1% milk. And so we fought and they were able to give us chocolate milk because they weren't drinking the 1%. So why bother giving it to them? So we really try to listen to what they want. And yeah, so it's been very successful. the other piece is that we were able to get funding for someone to run it, so that I didn't have to do that. So we were able to employ someone for the summer. In the past would be just July and August, but because of the pandemic, we were able to run it all the way to the end of October, when the market, closed. Yeah, so that was, it was great. I have to say that, and I'm sure for all of us, waiting to hear whether or not last year the markets were going to open, what were we going to do, all of the programming that I wanted to do with the children did not happen. But I learned a lot about the fact that the farmers market, it's about the food and food access. And we really just concentrated on that. And, really shifted our energy on that piece, because we knew we couldn't have, live music and all these other things. And that really wasn't what was needed. People needed food, and people needed resources. So, so I learned a lot from that piece. Yeah, so, but if you have any questions, I'm here.
Great. Thanks, Vicki. Yeah, if you have questions for Vicki or John, at this point, feel free to write them in the chat or just unmute yourself and shout it out. That's great, Vicki. It sounds like you made some really great connections in the neighborhood to support the program.
Yeah, I 2020 taught us a lot, and really just focusing on, food, and, it was just, we were even giving out diapers at the farmers market last year, and we're probably going to do the same thing again. So.
Mm-hmm. So really looking at the market as a hub for resources beyond the traditional, what the traditional, draw would be, but really focusing is come here for a variety of resources. Yeah.
Well, we've always had a resource table with information for, the community. But we really, last year really taught us a lot about what we really needed to focus on. So, and it brought people in, and it was, this is a crazy thing, is that it was our best season. It was our best season ever. People were lined up before we even got the tents up. So it was great. And I'm pretty sure it'll be the same again, even with the social distancing.
That's great. I really like what you said about the feedback too, Vicki, about providing an opportunity for kids to give feedback on the food that they're eating. And I think that's really important. And yeah, I just want to highlight that, giving them a voice in their choices. And then also, like you said, giving that voucher and empowering them to make choices at the market. I think that's great. And it's a great idea to get them, to draw them in and get them engaged.
Yeah. I thought we were going to be able to do, the little cooking classes. We bought all these little utensils that were size appropriate for their little hands. But we weren't able to do that. But we did do a virtual cooking class with families. So that worked out. So that still gave, and then what we did was we mailed them the utensils and a little apron. It says Mattapan Food and Fitness Coalition on it. But what I wanted was to get the families to engage together in the whole cooking classes. And this is what's leading us up to the farmers market for this season.
I have a question for maybe Natasha, maybe Vicki. Vicki, you mentioned this past year, your meals ran through October. And I'm just wondering, Natasha, if you can answer this as far as timing, like it's not a traditional summer meal, or is it? Like, are there parentheses on when these non-traditional sites can operate, or would it make sense or have the potential to go into the fall? Yeah, just wondering if you know anything more about what time span we're talking about.
Sure. Yeah, so unfortunately, it won't be able to go all the way till October this year. The USDA, I believe the SFSP is allowed to operate through the end of September, according to the USDA guidelines for this year. I do think it would depend on the sponsor that you are operating under if they were planning to have summer meals available through the end of September or not, because they will, if they're a school district, be transitioning into school time meal service, and it may or may not work for them to continue the summer style meal service. But I would say possibly through the end of September, for sure, through the end of the typical summer. Think of that as the end of August. But also potential to start, depending on when markets start, really anytime in June. Against that, there's no issue there in terms of USDA regulations. The issue would just be getting up and running in time with a sponsor and the amount of time that would take to set up.
Okay.
Well, we know that, it ran till October because, schools were closing and we were trying to have another site, which would have started in January. Unfortunately, Mattapan does not have a lot of sort of empty space or places where we could have just had a grab and go. And because of COVID, the two places that I thought maybe they didn't think it would be safe. So we weren't able to do that. But we are working on another site in Mattapan Square because the library is not open. So was crucial.
Yeah. When you gave out your Saturday market, did you give out one meal, Vicki, or was it multiple meals?
They got a breakfast, a snack, and a lunch. So in the breakfast was, a cold cereal, the milk, 2 milks, fruit, another little snack, and then lunch. So yeah. And, so they would bring it to us in portable, like the bag coolers. I bought these other bags. They were kind of cool bags to put everything in. And then we would just wait until people came to keep the milk at the right temperature. And they would, but it was, and once, we were probably, at the beginning, we do like 30. And then somewhere, because our market probably is one of the markets that's sort of starts late. We start July, the second Saturday of July. But, in a couple of Saturdays, then people know to come. And then the number just it just doubles. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Other questions for John, Natasha, Vicki? Here's one from David. Is there any coordination needed with the Board of Health, or does the sponsor take care of that?
Well, we've always taken care of it. We bought even before in 2019, we bought hand sanitizer. We bought whatever we needed. Tablecloths, tents. We had tables that were like for little kids and chairs and those kinds of things. So we did all of that. And then of course, we took care of all of that. Gloves, all of it.
Yeah, and I'll add that typically the sponsor is responsible for providing the sites with training and any information that they might need around food safety and those sorts of things. And ultimately, the sponsor is responsible for all of their sites and making sure that they follow the public health guidelines. So at the end of the day, yeah, it would be the sponsor ultimately responsible, but for sure, like Vicki shared, the site's carrying it out on the ground.
Yeah. Okay. John, did you have any dealings with your Board of Health, or was that also taken care of at the sponsor level?
No, that was taken care of at the sponsor level. So,
Well, I will say that, we did get funding from, Project Bread. So we would buy those kinds of supplies that we needed. Yeah.
Any other questions for any of our panelists, or comments, or your experiences that may differ from what you heard today? We're happy to open it up. We have a few minutes left. I'm just gonna put into the chat, Mass Farm to School has some summer resources that we have posted that we created in coordination with Project Bread. So feel free to check out those. And Vicki and John, is it okay if folks follow up with you if they have any questions that come up later on?
I will say, Natasha, you said the right thing, that this is a good time if you're thinking about doing this, because it is a grab and go. You're not, that other part of it. It sounds like it's a heavy lift, but it isn't. It's so much fun to see the kids together. But if you decide, the grab and go right now is pretty easy.
Great. Thank you for the plug, Vicki.
I'll second Vicki's
Yeah.
comments. So it's been, with our sponsors' help, it's been really easy for the market and just been a great benefit.
Great. Great. Well, if there aren't any other questions, one came in from Ellen in Andover, where the schools give out, I live in Andover, where the schools give out meals over the summer. Is this the same program or is this different? Natasha, if you want to.
Yeah, it's likely the same program if it's the Andover Public Schools operating the program. And so what we could do in that example is we might look at the city and see where are the existing sites there. If there's already a site that's very close by to your market location, it may or may not make sense to add a site, depending on, your community best. But it also, it could make sense in some instances where there are different folks visiting the market as maybe accessing the school sites. And so depending on if Andover Public Schools were willing to take on an additional site, it certainly could be possible.
I found in our town over the summer that the schools were doing a great job advertising that they were handing out free meals to kids under 18, but anyone that wasn't in the school system didn't know about it. So because obviously they're connecting to parents of students. So there were definitely some kids in our community that were in need that weren't unaware of it, but we did connect them to them. So I think it is two groups of community members that might benefit from both, having both.
Great. Great.
Yeah, at the library, there's another, it's the Matahunt, which has a summer program. But the kids that were coming to the library, they had nowhere else to go. And those are the kids that we really were able to, support. And the other thing is that if you find that that we partner with was, there were two groups of kids that came like on a Thursday. And then when I realized that they were coming every Thursday, the person who was bringing like 10 kids, I said, hey, if you're coming every Thursday, I will make sure that there's a meal here for them and to bring them to the market. So, you just try to partner with as many people as you can. And there was a Chevu, which is a roller skating ring in Mattapan. She had a group of kids that she brought to the library because they didn't have anywhere else to go. They weren't in summer programs or anything. So they used to come on Mondays and Fridays. So I always made sure I had more meals because I knew that they were going to be there. And then they would come to the market. on Saturday. So.
Great. Great. Thank you, Vicki. Thank you, John, Natasha. These have been great stories. And Natasha just shared mealsforkids.org, which is another great place for resources. And so we've recorded today's session and we'll make it available for those who couldn't join us. And also feel free to follow up with me or any one of the panelists for more information, and we'll try to point you in the right direction. So thanks for joining us, and best of luck with the start of your season.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.